The death of Socrates. 5 artists, one final truth. He is not resisting, not crying, not pleading. He reaches for the poison, as if he's accepting a gift. This is the death of Socrates, not as it happened, but as 5 different artists chose to remember it, and each of them tells a different truth. But what actually happened? In 399 BCE, Socrates was sentenced to death by the state of Athens. His crime? Corrupting the youth, disrespecting the gods, and worst of all, asking questions no one wanted to answer. He could have fled. His friends begged him to run, but he chose to stay, to die, as a final act of philosophy. The sentence: drink poison hemlock, a slow death, paralysis crawling from the feet upward until the heart stops. That moment, the instant before he drinks, became one of the most painted scenes in art history. And yet, no 2 paintings ever look the same. Jacques-Louis David, 1787, The Hero. This is the version most people know. Sharp outlines, clear light, a room full of anguish, but Socrates, untouched. He sits upright on his bed, muscles defined like a marble sculpture. His left hand points skyward, not in surrender but in conviction. His right hand reaches for the cup, no hesitation, no trembling. His gaze is fixed on his disciple, as if still teaching. The man holding the poison covers his face. He can't bear to witness it. Others cry, collapse, hide their grief in shadows. But Socrates glows in the center, wrapped in a white robe, shoulders bare, posture divine. David's composition is a stage, every figure placed with intention. He paints certainty, the mind victorious over the flesh. David painted this in the last years of the French monarchy. Revolution was coming, and David was preparing the world for a new kind of hero, one who chooses death over obedience. At a time when kings ruled by bloodline and tradition, David offers a counter-image, a man who rules by thought. This was not just ancient history, it was a message to question, to resist, to die standing. He paints Socrates not as a victim, but as a weapon. Jean-François Pierre Péron, 1787, The Shadow. The same year, but a world apart. Péron's painting is dimmer, quieter. Gone is the heroic light. Here the room is washed in muted browns and ochres. The shadows swallow the corners. Socrates sits upright on a bench, dressed in a white robe with a red drape. His left hand reaches for the cup, while his right hand is raised high, gesturing as if making a final point. His gaze is steady, looking straight ahead. Around him, his disciples are engulfed in grief. One man lies prostrate on the floor in the foreground, his face hidden. Others sit in despair, their faces turned away or buried in their hands. Péron doesn't paint defiance, he paints resignation, the slow surrender of the human body to an unavoidable fate. Unlike David, Péron was a more private figure. He worked in the same neoclassical tradition, but without the revolutionary fire. His Socrates is not a symbol. He is a man bearing the unbearable. This was a Socrates for the personal soul, not the political stage. Giambettino Signoroli, 1762, The Drama. Everything here mourns, everything grieves. Signoroli places Socrates at the center, already lifeless, his body slumped, his head resting on a cushion. His right arm hangs limp, the cup fallen from his hand. Around him, his disciples are in visible anguish. One man supports Socrates' body, tears streaming down his face. Another raises his arm to the heavens in despair. A man looks upward, his hands pressed together in silent prayer. In the lower right corner, a child sits, observing the scene with innocent curiosity. The color palette is rich, deep reds, browns, and golds. The atmosphere is heavy with emotion. Signoroli paints the moment not as triumph, but as tragedy fulfilled. Socrates is no longer teaching, he is gone, leaving behind a void filled with grief. Signoroli belonged to a time before the full rise of neoclassicism. a world still shaped by the drama of Baroque and the emotion of the Enlightenment. And that's what he gives us: emotion before form, pain before principle. Jacques-Philippe Joseph de Saint-Quentin, 1762. The ritual. Here, the death of Socrates becomes a rite. He sits at the center, his body bent forward, dressed in a yellow robe with a white cloth draped over his shoulder. His left hand clutches his chest, while his right hand reaches backward, perhaps in search of support. His head is bowed, his face reflecting the pain he endures. Behind him, a man covers his face with his hand, unable to witness the suffering. Others around him display various expressions of sorrow and despair. The setting is somber, with a subdued color palette and minimal background details. Saint-Quentin paints not a death, but a sacrifice. Socrates becomes more than man. He becomes ritualized truth. Saint-Quentin was trained in the academic tradition, and this work won him the prestigious Prix de Rome. His focus was not revolution or realism, but harmony, composition, and the sacred rhythms of classical drama. His Socrates does not resist death, he fulfills it. François-Xavier Fabre, 1801. The silence. Here all motion stops. Socrates sits at the center, holding the cup in his right hand, poised to drink. His expression is calm, accepting. He's surrounded by his disciples, each absorbed in their own grief. To his left, a man leans forward, his face buried in his hands. To the right, another figure sits with his head bowed, shrouded in a red cloak, his face hidden from view. The background is dark, the lighting subdued, focusing attention on the central figures. Fabre paints the final breath before the soul lets go. Not philosophy, not politics, just mortality. Fabre lived in the aftermath of revolution, a time of disillusionment, not heroism. His Socrates doesn't fight, he simply accepts. It's not the death of an idea, it's the fading of a life. One death, five meanings. What is truth? Is it David's defiance, Péron's surrender, Signoroli's heartbreak, Saint-Quentin's sacred passage, or Fabre's silent farewell? They all watched the same death. They all painted a different meaning. But in every painting, the cup is there, the hemlock, the choice. Socrates does not die by force. He dies by idea, by principle, by conviction. And maybe that's what art reminds us, not how someone died, but why. If this moved you, like, comment, and subscribe for more moments in art where the brush reveals what the sword cannot. This isn't about death. It's about the courage to face it.